What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over what you need to know about Fortnite's most recent balance update. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more. Comment down below what you think of these changes, and if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything, it is EvolvedJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. Also, keep in mind, this is just a balance update. We are getting another major update this Thursday, which is going to actually add new content to the game. For starters, shock rocks got nerfed in this update, which I think is a very good thing. The max stack size was reduced from 6 to 4, so you can carry 2 less shock rocks in a max stack. You could still carry multiple stacks in your inventory if that's something you choose to do, but this should just result in people running out of shock rocks a little bit more frequently and not being able to just run around or run away from fights as often. I also feel like while playing today, in the matches where I didn't land towards the center of the map and maybe I got there a little bit late, I still was able to find some shock rocks on the ground, kind of more so than I typically was. Like the people that just land mid-map, since they're carrying a bit less, there should be more remaining on the ground, but that isn't always going to be the case. Unfortunately, it's just kind of game to game. Sometimes people take them all, but one of the things I'd hoped with this update was that we would be getting just more often that you could land other places and still make your way towards the middle of the map and find some. Also, there was something about them changing the price of purchasing shock rocks and vending machines, and this confused a lot of people because they go to the vending machines and they're like, what the heck, shock rocks aren't there? Or they just see this change and they're like, oh my god, they added shock rocks to vending machines, this is going to ruin the game. To my understanding, in public match 0 build, shock rocks are not in the vending machines, and this was a change that mostly affects ranked modes and build mode, because in build mode, the pocket item vending machine actually does sell mobility. So I don't think you can purchase them in vending machines still, but that change did confuse a lot of people. Overall, I think this is a good change. I would like to see them nerfed more. I feel like the shock rocks have been a absolute game warping item ever since they were added. But fights did feel kind of just less spammy, or like players were just running away way less today. But it is a pretty small sample size of only one day. We did get some balance changes and improvements to both the Warforged AR and Burst AR because these weapons haven't really been getting used that much. The Warforged AR got its fire rate increased from 7.2 to 7.3, and then it also got a faster reload speed. This isn't something that you're really going to notice at all. I think the fire rate going from 7.2 to 7.3 is a pretty insignificant change. What is a nice improvement, though, is going to be the accuracy. The aim down sight accuracy was improved by 5%, and the in-air accuracy was improved by 17%. And this is a very, very important change because of how relevant the shock rocks are. The shock rocks often create fights where enemies are just spam jumping away from you after you get damage on them. And if you want to pursue that kill, you have to spam jump after them and then shoot them in the air. And the improved accuracy that the Warforged got in air, I think, does make it a lot more viable. The Ranger pistol has been incredibly good all season, and it's just an incredibly solid weapon on paper. But I think one of the big reasons why the Ranger pistol is so dominant is because the in-air accuracy is so incredible, and that makes it very good in those situations where you're chasing people using the shock rocks. Very good when you're engaging on people using the shock rocks, or even using other forms of mobility like the overdrive nades and the shockwaves. So the in-air accuracy being improved might sound like a random change, but I feel like this is a pretty significant improvement. And then the Harley Quinn Mythic damage was reduced by 1 to kind of compensate for these accuracy bonuses. The Burst AR also got buffed. It got just straight damage increased. The gray version got its damage increased by 1, and then every other rarity got its damage increased by 2. So a decent amount more damage on the Burst. That might not sound like a lot, but it's basically like everything just got upgraded in rarity. The aim down sight accuracy was also improved by 5%, and then the reload speed was decreased, so it's going to take a little bit longer to reload now. And the aim down sight accuracy bonus of this, I don't think was very noticeable, and it didn't get an in-air accuracy benefit, which is unfortunate because, as I touched on, I think that's really important this season. The Burst has been good all season, and it's still really solid, and these improvements are nice, but I don't think that's something enough to shake up the meta. It's still more inconvenient to use than the Ranger pistol, especially with how this season plays, and that's basically how I would go with the Warforged too. The change felt nice accuracy-wise, but the Ranger pistol is probably still the best. If I had to, hypothetically, let's say the Ranger pistol was gone tomorrow, I think I probably would prefer the Warforged AR at that point. But still, with these improvements and with these changes, the ARs are definitely better and they feel more enjoyable to use. But I don't think they're going to be the clear-cut best choice because the Ranger pistol wasn't really nerfed. They did make some weird changes to it. They reduced the spawn rate of the Ranger pistol. And while playing today, I don't think this was something noticeable enough to really impact the game for me. But I was mostly landing at areas that have a good amount of loot, and I was mostly playing solos. If you're landing at areas that have, you know, not very much loot and you're often just scraping by, then maybe the spawn rate change on the Ranger pistol affects the game for you. Or if you're playing team game modes like squads, you know, there being a slightly reduced spawn rate might make it harder for 4 people to get the weapon. But I feel like as time goes on and as you loot throughout the game and as you get eliminations, it's still going to be a point where you're going to find this weapon plenty. Like I said, I wasn't having that hard of a time finding it, and most of the players I ran into were also still using it, so it's not like it's just so infrequent that you can't really find it. They also did nerf the Mythic version of the Ranger pistol, but not in a significant way. They reduced the damage on the Mythic version that you can get from Poison Ivy by 1. And so 1 less damage, it's not that crazy, especially when the Mythic has a faster fire rate when aimed in. It's still going to absolutely melt enemies. And that was the only nerf made to the Ranger pistol. The spawn rate and then the Mythic by 1. All the other rarities were not affected damage stat-wise at all. The accuracy wasn't changed at all. The range wasn't changed at all. And so I think the Ranger pistol is still going to dominate. And like I said, while playing today, it seemed like a majority of players were still just running the Ranger pistol. So most people seem to, you know, think it's still the best. The Mythic rapid fire SMG that you can get from Catwoman was... the magazine size was increased from 25 to 27, so you get 2 extra bullets there. Not that crazy, but with the extended mag being the main benefit of the Mythic rapid fire SMG, that is something that you would you know, like to see. Any more magazine size is nice because magazine size is the kind of main problem with that weapon, or the main downside of the weapon along with its range. The bank shot pistol got its damage increased by 7%, so slightly more damage on this bank shot pistol. But the bounce multiplier was reduced from 1.6 to 1.5. But since the base damage was increased, the damage you would get on a bank shot is still the same as it was before. So basically, they just reduced the multiplier from the bank shots, from the bounce. The way that this pistol works is if you shoot it and then it ricochets and hits somebody, you get bonus damage because of that. And since they increased the base damage, they reduced that multiplier a little bit, so the end result is still the same. I feel like this is not really that, you know, significant of a change. This isn't a pistol you see very frequently. The Guardian Shield got nerfed. You know, I would have liked to see it just completely removed, but a nerf is also nice. The duration you can hold the shield out was reduced from 20 seconds to 10 seconds. And the recharge delay was increased from 5 to 8 seconds, but the amount of time it takes to recharge once recharging starts remained the same. So the rate at which it recharged remained the same. So the Guardian Shield, you know, I'm sure many of you, if you play Zero Build, you've encountered players that just hold it up. And I honestly didn't even know there was a time at which it stopped allowing you to hold it up, because 20 seconds is such an incredible long time for a regular fight to play out. 10 seconds feels a lot more manageable to play against, and you can encounter somebody using this and know that, like, there's an end in sight to them being able to use this Guardian Shield, you know? And then the fact that it takes a little longer to start regenerating as well is going to leave that person more vulnerable than they would have otherwise been in the downtime of it recharging. So I think this is a good change, but like I said, any nerf to the Guardian Shield I would have been happy with. And then the final changes that we're going to talk about is going to be the Storm changes. Matches can now be about 2 minutes and 28 seconds shorter, but this isn't a guarantee because most matches weren't going to final zones anyways. And this sounds like, oh my god, that's going to be a huge change. It doesn't feel that different in game because this was done by shortening several of the storm circles in a combination of time by 98 seconds. So they took like a few seconds from this zone, a few seconds from that zone, a few seconds from that zone, and that's going to be the wait time before zone starts moving. So it's not like one zone was just made to be significantly shorter. They reduced a lot of them by a little bit, so the change doesn't really feel that disruptive. And then some of the storm closing times was reduced by a combination of 50 seconds. And like I said, that's not just one zone reduced by 50 seconds. That's taking a little chunk out of each zone. So both the wait time and the closing time was changed for several of the zones. And the amount of change time-wise adds up to 2 minutes and 28 seconds. Storm phases 2 through 5 are now smaller than they were before. And then triangle zones were disabled. And while playing today, it felt like a majority of my matches for solos were about 16 minutes long-ish. There was some a little longer, some a little shorter, but also I had some battle bus end games in there, which kind of, you know, makes the stats kind of meaningless. I think for a long time, the stagnant mid to end game has been a problem that Fortnite has struggled with, and I think that's why they introduced a lot of like mid-match objectives in Chapter 4, 5, and 6. And I think for the most part, a lot of those mid-match objectives were just band-aids. Like Island, you would have the loot island spawn, and a lot of people would go there and fight, and that would create action in a zone that maybe wouldn't have as much action otherwise. But after that, you had like oftentimes a really stagnant period looking for the final 1 or 2 players that didn't really contest Island. So and that case basically goes for every mid-match objective, I feel like. So I think for a long time, this is what I've wanted. The pacing of a BR, I feel like, is controlled by the size of zone and the amount of players left alive. So if you have a very large zone and very few people alive, it's going to be hard for you to find players, and there's going to be like that long dull point between fights. But if the storm size feels fair or like good for the amount of players left alive, then the flow of action is pretty like consistent throughout the course of the game. I think there always will be those stagnant periods or those downtime periods, but I think this is a step in the right direction, because if you guys have played for a while, you know, a lot of times you get to a point where there's like 5 people left and the zone is gigantic, and even if you did want to go find people, it's kind of a struggle to do so because there's so much surface area to look for so few people. So I really like this change. I think changing the way the storm works relative to the amount of people left alive so that there is a consistent flow of action is like the single biggest improvement Fortnite could make to the game to just make it more enjoyable to play on a consistent basis. And a lot of people, you know, look at that and they're like, oh, that's what reload is for. Reload matches are shorter. And yes and no. I feel like the reload has like the respawning nature. I still think Battle Royale obviously will have like a slower pace than reload, but it doesn't need to be like so drastically drawn out. And I feel like for a while, the lobbies just die out really quick, and then the zone is still really large. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys did find this video to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.